Do you eat organic honey?
Do I eat organic honey? I don't eat organic honey. I like my honey full of chemicals. No, I don't eat honey at all. I don't eat any animal products. Honey, you guys know much about honey? You want to talk about honey?
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on honey, but it's kind of fun to say that honey is bee vomit. That tends to make it a little bit less appealing to people. Bees consume nectar from flowers, and they process it in their systems, and they regurgitate honey. That's where honey comes from. And they store honey for themselves. It's food for the bees. That's why they make it and store it. When we take it, we're taking it away from them. They then have to go out and make some more for themselves. And, I mean, I suppose if you're always feeding them, maybe they never need it. But the whole idea of keeping bees, personally, it's not something I don't want to take any animal and make it captive. So even cats, I mean, it took me a long time to decide to even have a cat because I'd really like to see all animals free. But
They're pretty free.
they're pretty free. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, I have a sister who has, I think, 5 cats, and she lives in a small house, and her cats aren't allowed to go outside because she's afraid they're going to get hurt. You know, they're going to get attacked or something. So they stay inside the house. And whenever, like, if you go visit her, she'll tell you every time you're leaving, she's like, "Be careful at the door," because all the cats run to the door because they want to go out. Like, let the friggin' cats outside. You know, they want to be outside. How can you keep these poor things cooped up inside a house? I would never do that, personally. Everyone has to make their own choices. But for me, if I'm going to have an animal, it's going to be as free as possible. I had a parrot in college. Even then, most people keep their parrots. Interesting about birds. Most birds need only 1 or 2 feathers on each wing to fly. They have what they call flight feathers. All the rest of their feathers, they don't need to have to fly. You could pluck all the feathers off a bird except 2 on each wing, it could still fly. So most people cut those feathers. And feathers have blood supply, but only to a certain point in the quill. If you don't cut it down that deep, they don't bleed. They don't even feel it. So most people cut their feathers, birds can't fly. I thought, I don't want a friggin' bird that can't fly. Birds need to fly, right? So I let the feathers grow back in. Eventually it got out a window. There was a pane of glass missing. I had a towel thumbtacked over this missing pane of glass. And the bird pulled the towel out and got out the window. And I never saw him again because he wanted to fly. And you know what happens? When he was raised in captivity, when birds have no experience, they've never been free, they haven't learned navigational skills. So they say even if they want to come home, they get up in the sky, they see a bunch of roofs, like they don't really know how to navigate. I never saw them again. But honey. Honey is simple carbohydrates, so your body treats it like it treats processed sugar. It's taken up very quickly. It has a significant impact on your system. And again, I mean, my own personal take on it is, if you want to eat honey, think about what would happen if you lived in the jungle. Okay, there are honeybees here. How often, you're living in the jungle naked, right? You don't have bee-keeping costumes. You're just running around naked in the jungle. How often are you going to risk being stung to get some honey? Like, you're going to go up there and climb up the tree, take the hive down, and risk being stung 1,000 times to get some honey? I'm not. Especially now when I've got mangoes and papayas and bananas and other stuff. I don't really need the honey. So for ethical reasons, because I think in nature it would be very unlikely we would ever eat it very often. I mean, bears will do that, but they've got thick hides and thick fur to protect them. Okay, they're not going to be affected by bees the same way that you and I are. So I think for those couple reasons, it's something I probably, just wouldn't, I don't think it would happen very often in nature. Maybe every once in a while you'd come across a honeycomb lying on the ground with no bees. It's already broken and fallen and they've left it there. Maybe you get some, but I don't think that would happen very often. In 9 years, living in the tropics and hiking around, I've never seen one on the ground. I've never ever run across honey easy, available for the taking. So I haven't had any. I decided 20 plus years ago that I was not going to consume animal products anymore. And for me, that means in any form. So I own no leather. My belt looks like it's leather. It's not. Looks like it's invisible. No leather, no silk anymore. Actually, I take that back. I do still have a couple of old sport coats that are silk or wool. But I don't buy anything anymore. My sweaters are all cotton. And you can buy nice, heavy cotton sweaters. They work pretty well. Okay, when I go to Boston and it's freezing up there, my sister's in the warmest clothes. I'm wearing cotton because I don't own wool. You guys know about silk?
Silkworm.
Yeah, silk. Silk seems innocuous enough, right? Silkworms. Silk is ejected from the silkworm as they spin their cocoon. And silk is stronger than steel. If you were to look at the same size, piece of steel the same size as silk, silk is considerably stronger than steel. It's amazingly strong for its size. And what makes it so valuable is that they spin a continuous web of one thread. It's like one continuous thread, that whole thing. And they build it around themselves, so they're inside. And when they're ready to come out, they eat their way through it. So what happens? Well, instead of having one continuous thread, let's say it's a mile long, you've got 100,000, or a million little tiny pieces. How useful are they? Not very useful. You can't do much with that. When they have these long threads, they can weave them into fabric. But it's very hard to use little tiny pieces. So because every silkworm is going to destroy its own cocoon when it's ready to come out, what silk farmers do is they grow the trees that silkworms live on, the only ones, and then they pick all the cocoons off of the tree, while the silkworm's still in it, and they boil them alive. And that's the only way to get silk. So I haven't bought silk in nearly 30 years, and I'm not buying anymore because I don't want to have anything to do with that.
I always thought honey was healthy for you, natural antibiotic, all that stuff. Bill recently told me that there's 2 different toxins in it that make it harmful to us. I hadn't ever heard that before. That's what he said. Well, children, definitely infants, you can't give it to them. I think it's because of botulism. So
Yeah,
but
it does.
I don't remember. He said there's 2 different ones.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
That are toxic to the adults.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of other questions. I mean, people often say, is there something in honey that's good for us? Yeah. Without asking the next logical question, is there anything in here that's harmful to us? Well, yeah, there is. And I mean, again, think of it this way. I really believe this is the only way we need to think about it. Is it something we were designed, is it something our bodies are really adapted for or not? Is it our natural food? If it's not, we're better off not eating it. Always going to be better off not eating those things that we're not specifically adapted for.